The Ford Bronco Sport Free Wheeling is pretty unique. I almost feel like there has to be a Weird Al song. It'll be freewheeling instead of free falling and all sorts of craziness. This Bronco Sport is in the Cactus gray exterior, which inside of the freewheeling trim, I don't think is the best color choice that you could go for. I honestly think it would go to either the shadow black or surprisingly the hot pepper red. So that pepper red with all of those unique colors goes nicely, especially with the highlights that you're going to find inside of the wheels. But that black look inside of the shadow black also looks really nice inside of this specific trim level. Pricing wise inside of the Bronco Sport, the 24 is a little bit more expensive than the 2023 model was. So you're looking in Canada starting at a little over $41,000 versus in the States starting at a little over $31,000 in comparison. As of right now, also still not sure if the 2025 Bronco Sport's getting an upgrade. It looks like the Maverick is going to get it. So if the Bronco Sport doesn't get it in 25, it's definitely going to happen in 26, but we'll know for sure if that's coming or not within the next couple months. The Bronco Sport has the option for either 17 or 18-inch wheels with varying styles depending on your trim. This is the freewheeling, so strictly looking at a 17-inch wheel as an option. And I gotta say, the highlights that you've got inside of this wheel are really, really eye-catching. Especially as you start moving, there's something about those red pockets as they drive. Looks really sharp. If you're looking for something like the freewheeling wheel inside of other trim levels of the Bronco Sport, you could always just hydro dip the wheels aftermarket. You're probably $200-300 or so to do each wheel, but you can customize it and really make it your own. One thing I like about the Bronco Sport is that it's got Ford's intelligent all-wheel drive system. So it's got a bunch of different GOAT modes, so you can change up what mode that you're in. But one of the nice things about that intelligent system is it figures out which wheel needs which amount of power, automatically diverts it on the fly. If you're in the Badlands trim level though, you do have that four-wheel drive lock, so it's got an advanced system. So I say this in all of my Bronco Sport videos. If your plan is to take your Bronco Sport off-road, you could get underbody protection now in other trim levels of the Bronco Sport, but your best bet, your bang for your buck, is going to be inside of the Badlands trim level. Because not only do you get that underbody protection, rubberized flooring on the inside, there's also a front-facing camera and the more powerful 2-liter engine. Very similar to other trim levels of the Bronco Sport, the freewheeling has that Bronco lettering in the very front, and it has a nice little stroke that's red, highlights nicely with what's going on the inside. And one other cool highlight about the freewheeling is the grille. So just the overall color scheme of it, it's a painted silver instead of the typical colors that you're gonna get. It actually looks really nice. There's some technology you're not going to find inside of the freewheeling trim level of the vehicle. You're never gonna have that front-facing camera. There's no forward sensing system either. You've got fog lamps inside of this ride, and then those LED headlamps. Because I've had this vehicle for a few days, actually seeing it at night, so damn cool. There's no mistaking when you've got a Bronco Sport coming at you. And one cool thing about the hood is that it's got this nice stripe pattern that goes throughout the very top with a bucking Bronco along the very bottom and the yellow portion. And that actually highlights nicely with what's going on in the body and then in the seats on top of that. And underneath the hood of the Bronco Sport, as always, there are 2 different engine choices that are available. And that's going to be trim level specific. So in pretty much everything but the Badlands, it's just going to be the 1.5 liter turbocharged engine, which ends up translating to 181 horsepower and 190 pound-feet of torque. Which for an engine this size is actually surprisingly peppy, especially when you put yourself in sport mode. So in sport mode here, and a 0 to 60 test or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3, 2, and... Come on, inline 3! 100. It's also an inline 3 with cylinder deactivation. And what that means is that you are going to get better fuel economy inside of this ride because cylinders shut down as you're driving and coasting on the highway to improve your overall fuel economy. There is the option for the 2-liter turbocharged engine though, and that's an inline 4, 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. That thing is an absolute powerhouse. So if power is your thing, you're absolutely going to want to look at the 2-liter turbocharged engine instead. But if you don't care about power, you just want a Bronco Sport to get you from A to B, you're looking at a first car or something for a little bit of off-road fun, the 1.5 liter absolutely has you covered. And then looking at the warranty in the Ford world, it's pretty industry standard. Your basic is going to be a 3-year, 36,000 miles, 60,000 kilometer. Powertrain gets moved up to a 5-year, 60,000 mile, 100,000 kilometer. You always have the option of increasing that at time of purchase as well. So if you want a little bit of extra peace of mind, that is always an option for you. Just costs you a couple bucks to make it happen. Very similar to the front end. The rear end of the freewheeling has the Bronco Sport lettering in white with a nice red stroke to it. The tail lamps are the exact same, and then there is the option to get the convenience package inside of the freewheeling, which is going to give you the reverse park sensing system and a number of other useful features. So if those are options that you want, just make sure you add it at time of ordering from the factory. This one also has the optional tow package. Big benefit of that tow package, you get a full-size spare tire, and then you can tow. Towing capacity inside of the Bronco Sport, inside of the 1.5 liter engine is maxing it at 2,000 pounds. Inside of the Badlands, it's 2,200 pounds maximum. So if you want to be able to pull more, you could look at the Escape as an option, which is going to max it at 3,500 pounds, or the Maverick instead, which is going to go up to 4,000 pounds. So there are different options that are available. Now, there are a few different ways that you can get into the back end here too. So you could hit the glass button in order to just pop the glass, which is pretty neat. And then there's a second one. So just to the right-hand side of the rear camera, there's also a button there for the rear door in order to open up the liftgate. And one downside to the Bronco Sport is that there's no option for a foot-activated liftgate or for a power liftgate, like what you're going to find in a number of other Ford vehicles. But there are some unique highlights back here. So off to the right, there's a little light, and then there's a 12-volt power point. Off to the left-hand side, there's also a little light control, and that's for the little puddle lamp over top here. So camping later on at night, you need a little bit of visibility. That is available as an option. Then this is kind of interesting. So this is the mat that's available for the Bronco Sport. The rear tray is rubberized, so seems like a little bit redundant, but it is available. And then you can fully lift this tray up. And when you do have access to the full-size spare tire. And then the jack is just underneath that spare tire. One of the nice things about being a Ford owner, though, is that you do have access to roadside assistance. So the jack is there, the spare tire is there, you could change it yourself, but you could also call an 800 number to have somebody change it for you. On top of that, Ford Roadside Assistance is good for fuel delivery, lockout, winching services, within reason. So if you're taking your Bronco Sport off-road deep into the boonies, you're pretty much SOL if you get stuck there. You're going to have to call off-road recovery, reach out to something like the Ontario Bronco Club and see if you can get help that way. But there are options that are available. But there's a good amount of space back here, and then folding down the second row seats can easily be done through the trunk area here. So just button press in order to fold it down. It's wild. There's so much space available back here. And the cargo measurements that you're looking at specifically for behind the first row are going from right where the liftgate would close to just in behind the armrest between those first row seats. But still, I love how much space is inside of this ride. Filling up fuel inside of the Bronco Sport is just along the driver's side. I love the little graphic decals on that gas cover. It's a capless system as well that has anti-siphon technology built in. And then there are also unique highlights for the Bronco throughout the years on top of that. So a little Easter egg. Minimum manufacturer's recommendation is just regular 87 octane. Now, there is the argument of using a higher octane fuel inside of turbocharged engines. And even the horsepower and torque specs that you're looking at, all achieved using a 94 octane. I put premium fuel inside of this ride, topping it up. I'm not going to notice any difference in power. It's negligible, like 2-3% increase in fuel economy, and then for overall performance. But I said, save yourself a couple bucks at the pump, just use regular 87 octane instead. The Bronco Sport is built on the same platform as the Escape and the Maverick, so you do have different options if the Bronco Sport won't suit your needs. The Maverick is going to give you a bed. The Escape is available as a plug-in hybrid, so there are different options for you depending on what you're after. But we're talking about the Bronco Sport, and this ride is great. There's a boatload of space as well, and it's easy to get inside of the first row, and just as easy to get inside of the second row. That's nice. I'll show you what the interior looks like in a second, but there are so many different accessories you're going to find for the Bronco Sport. There are tents that are available to sit over top. At the auto show, Ford had one set up where the tent was in the back instead. It's really neat what's available for the Bronco Sport. But some highlights. So the 5-digit number pad, no longer available from the factory for the Bronco Sport. So you could install it aftermarket. I've seen people actually install it right inside the fuel door there as well. So there are different options that are available. The side view mirrors feature the blind spot monitoring system, so that's going to highlight if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side. Intelligent access, and actually even the door handle. It's painted silver, very similar to what you saw on the grille on the front end, but it features intelligent access. You can push along the top there to lock, slide your hand in order to unlock. Oh, look at the funkiness of those seats. But along the driver door, there's a nice red highlight through, and that follows through what's going on all the way throughout the dash. Pretty neat. But outside of that, it's just standard Bronco Sport styling. So you've got your unlock lock buttons, your basic side view mirror controls, window controls with a little bit of storage and a speaker. On the inside, your basic switches to open up the trunk. Now that's just a release, so you actually have to manually open up, figure out what's going on with your running lamps. As always, just be in the auto mode, and then increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen. These are the rubberized liners that you're going to find right from Ford. So Bronco Sport, you could do aftermarket through WeatherTech, but the Ford liners, I think look really damn nice. So a little Bronco scuff plate there. And then power adjustable seats for the driver's side. It's a manual adjust for the passenger. But yeah, those seats, so funky. So funky. The stitching that follows all the way throughout lines up nicely with what's going on and the seat itself. Ooh, man, let's do a little start up. Toasty in here. All right. While that's starting up, let's do a little. Yeah, there's so much space. That's one thing that I loved about the Bronco Sport. There's an absurd amount of space inside this ride. So what are we looking at? Like 4.5, almost 5 inches easily of headspace there. It's so ridiculous how much space is available inside of this car. It's like the old boxy style Escape from like the 2000s, but if you miss that old boxy style Escape, this is a pretty good option too. And the seat comfort is okay. That's one thing that I will point out is that like this car has about 5,000 kilometers on it right now, and the seat could be more comfortable for sure. So it's not as comfortable as what you're going to find inside of some of the higher trim levels, but still, it's okay. I've said it like 4 times so far, but it's okay. But there are so many things. So this one has the available co-pilot assist package, which is going to give you the adaptive cruise control system. So there are different options that are available. You're going to have at least basic cruise, but the adaptive cruise, such a useful system. I love it. Love it. But if you want to walk through, like you want to know how to use the steering wheel buttons, go through the cluster screen, or even use the infotainment system, you'll find those walkthroughs down in the description of this video. It's nice. I like that bucking Bronco in the very middle. Mentioned there, start stop button. This one does have the option with factory navigation. So there are 2 different screen options, one without factory nav, one with. So without and with, but they're the exact same size. But if you don't have factory navigation, not a big deal, because you can hook your phone up over USB in order to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze through Apple CarPlay, or Google Maps and Waze through Android Auto. So those are also available as well. But having factory navigation is useful. Woo! Audio-wise, there are different options that are available. Actually, we're going to listen to a little bit of USB audio right now. And while that's loading up, so there are 2 different speaker choices that you're going to find inside of the Bronco Sport. So it's either going to be a 6-speaker system standard, like what we're looking at in the freewheeling, and then in the higher trims, it's a 10-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system instead. That sound system is really, really good. I'm not going to like point my nose at this one though. Like it still is a pretty good audio system because the cabin's not too big inside this ride, but still the upgraded audio system inside of something like you're going to find like in the Badlands is really good. So hold on, let's go through USB, and going to find some audio here. Let's go through. I don't want to go random. Let's browse through. Let's go for something unique. So you know what? Let's start off with, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start off with a little bit of classical. And the music that we're listening to here is just coming right out of the microphone. So there's no post-processing done whatsoever. Little Beethoven, pretty good. And then let's go. Ooh, okay. It's going to take a second there and sing me down, just out of the mic.
Make a good impression on your boss. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do. And when you're making money, make sure you don't spend it too soon. Do what I want to do. I got a different path from everyone, and that includes you.
I mean, the audio there is pretty good. Is it as good as the upgraded system? No, but same thing. I think for most people, that's probably going to be good enough. And then as always, you've got the flexibility to be able to tweak the audio settings here as well. So through settings, we've got the media player. Look at that. Oh, that's just the media device itself. We're going for sound settings. That's the one I was after. So sound settings there. Oh yeah, look at that. I was like, it sounds a little off. That's why. Never do this. Your treble should not be that high. Treble should be dropped a bit. Bass should be up a little bit. Like something like this, where your treble's down a few points, bass is up a few points, in my opinion anyway, gives pretty good audio. I was wondering why that sounded a little off. Yeah, treble, you don't want to crank that. Not so good, not so good. But tons of options. But yeah, like I said, if you want a full walkthrough on the screen, you'll find it down in the description. There's a little tray underneath. I love that red highlight that goes all the way through. Pretty neat. Single zone climate control inside of this trim level. There's the option for dual zone. You've at least got heated first row seats as an option though. And then there is technically the option for a heated steering wheel in some trim levels as well. Down, wireless charge pad is there because of the added convenience package. There are 2 USB ports down there. So there's USB Type A, USB Type C, and they're both data transfer ports. 12 volt power point there as well. Get your rotary shifter, so park, reverse, neutral, drive with a dedicated low gear. And then your backup camera, nice and simple, with the option for that rear parking aid, so that beeping that you get as you back up. There's an electronic parking brake, auto hold setting, and then a series of selectable goat modes, so go over any terrain. So you've got your sport mode, slippery, and then sand mode, and they all do something different. Like this, yeah, you see there, turns off traction control, so they're going to play with traction control, stability control. Sport mode's going to play with your shift points as well. So rather than shifting at, let's say, like 2,000 RPM, it might shift at 4,000 plus RPM instead. One other neat highlight that I saw, Bronco Free Wheeling. Nice little nameplate. It's that small detail that I like that Ford's done here. Looks good. But yeah, even the seats, like, so funky. So different. I wish that the stitching there, so you see how that's that two-tone stitching? It would have been nice if they followed it through the steering wheel on top of that. I think that would have made it pop a tiny little bit more. But you've at least got it through the armrest. Slightly different colors, actually. Same color scheme on the inside there, which is kind of nice. But armrest has a good amount of space with a few more power points down there. So another USB, USB Type-C that are charge ports only. But half wrist deep, pretty good. Glove box is non-lockable inside of this ride, but there's a boatload of space available. And then you've got this like interesting groove texture, and that follows through the entire dash. There's the option for an auto-dimming rear view mirror in some of the higher trims, along with basic controls for, there we go, for your cabin lights. And then these, actually I'll get to those in a second. You've got a little sunglasses holder, and then the option for I was going to say panoramic sunroof, but an option for a sunroof. So not full panoramic, but it's at least there. You've got basic controls, so one for the shade, one for the roof, but you can also use the one there to open up the shade as well at the same time. But I mean, that just opens things up so nicely. But look what it looks like from the outside. That's pretty neat. And then you could button press. So I pushed the far one. So this is for the shade. That's for the roof. So by pushing the shade one closed, it's just going to close everything in tandem instead. Makes it easy. From there, up overhead, you've got a little ticket receipt holder along with the home link system. So if you've got a garage door opener at home, you can program it in. There's a receipt holder, ticket holder on the inside with vanity mirror that has lights built in. And this extends out. Oh yeah. blocking all of the sun. That's going to be hitting your face. But, like I said, this is nice. The seats, like I said, aren't super comfortable. But I mean, at the same time, there's always aftermarket. You can do cushions and things like that if you really wanted something a little bit nicer. Let's hop back to that second row. Hold on. Before I do. Okay, there we go. Got the seat set up the way that I would traditionally drive. And I am 6 feet tall. So, second row. Yeah, I like that handle. That highlight there is so neat. So neat. And you've got that same red highlight along the door. And then just, again, very Bronco Sport styling. A little bit of door storage with that unique stitching that follows through the door there as well. If you ever need to get into the cargo area and you don't need to get into the trunk, you can also push the button there. Oh, there we go. In order to get into the second row. I love those rubberized trays. So again, these are the factory trays that you're going to find directly from Ford. That Bronco in the very middle there. Got a little pocket behind the driver's side and the passenger, but we'll get there in a second. So with the driver's seat set up this way for myself being 6 feet tall, inside of the second row, I've got a great amount of knee space, foot space, and head space. This is wild. Look at this. About the same, like 4 or 5 inches of head space there. So taller people, you're not going to have an issue sitting back here. The only thing that might be tight is the foot space, just depending on the height of the driver and how far back that seat is. But and like I said, with this setup for myself being 6 feet, that's pretty solid. Middle seat, there's a little hump, but getting over, it's not too bad. This seat is a little bit further back as well. So you can see it's a little bit tighter. I personally, usually wouldn't be in a middle seat, but if I had to, I'd fit. I've got a bunch of headspace, but the seat cushion is actually not comfortable by any stretch. I don't think I've found a middle seat in any car that actually is fairly comfortable. It's typically where you would throw people that you don't like. You've got kids, but the anchor points are there as well, top tethers, so you could always put the kid seats there instead. You've got some cup holders built right in. Goes nicely with the bottle holders along both doors. And then you've got, like I mentioned, your pockets behind both the driver passenger side, and then there's a little pocket on the inside there on both sides as well. Got your little vent control, some USB power points down there. So another USB Type-C. Up overhead, there's a handle and a hook on both the passenger and the driver's side. And a little light. Oh, pushable? Oh, yeah. Little light up overhead there as well. Man, that's it. Like, the seats are so different inside of the freewheeling. Going for something different. It's like Ford looked at the Heritage and they're like, let's make something a little bit funkier. And they have accomplished that. But it's got the 1.5 liter engine, the same thing you're going to find in a number of other Bronco Sport models. So let's take her out for a spin and have some fun. One thing that I've noticed driving the Bronco Sport right now for a longer distance is how quiet this cabin actually is. It's been a mix of highway driving, just regular residential streets, things like that. And the highway drive, I've never really noticed this before in other reviews that I've done of the Bronco Sport. But the cabin is surprisingly quiet. Like, yeah, there's obviously some road noise, but for a vehicle where the cabin is this big inside, it's actually pretty dang quiet. The Bronco Sport is only available all-wheel drive, and you need to get out of the way of obstacles quickly. It's not bad. Well, now let's do a little 180. Ugh. Not bad. Reaching down for a shift. I was just in a Mustang GT, and it was a 6-speed manual, so I just went to go reach for the gear shifter. Yeah, wrong car. It's the one downside of constantly jumping between different cars now is that you just get used to the one-hand position, and next thing you know, you're jumping into something different. Oh, that Mustang GT though, oh, such a blast. Such a blast. It was only the 301A, but honestly, I had a really good time in that car. If you've never seen one of my Mustang videos, or if you want to know the answer to the question, is the Mustang GT a good daily driver? You'll find a walkthrough video down in the description of this video. And that was a look at the Bronco Sport Free Wheeling and all of its funkiness. You can find a build link for this Bronco Sport and links off to Ford Canada and US down in the description, along with all the tech walkthrough videos. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and until I see you next time, take care. Don't get me wrong, the Cactus Gray looks nice. It just could be done a little bit nicer with one of those other colors. And then looking at the warranty in the Ford world, it's pretty interesting. Yeah. And if you love the style of the wheel inside of the hair, no, that's not the Heritage, this is the freewheeling. And if you love the style of the hair,